Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the July 19th regular meeting of Nicholas County Board of Education. And at this time, if you'll stand for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Please join the board with the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I said July 19th, I meant July 17th, sorry. Okay, discussion items, easement agreements with the city of Bridgewood, and we have Danny Bram Jr. with Thrasher with us this evening, and so he will show us what he needs us to agree to.
All right, thank you all for having me. The city of Richwood is doing a sanitary sewer project to replace a lot of interceptors that were disturbed during the 2016 flood. So in that, there's two different areas where the Board of Education has property where we're getting right-of-way agreements from the board for getting access and maintaining the sanitary sewer system. The main area is right at the Cherry River School, where we're doing the addition to the high school and add the middle school to it. So in this section, this is all old terracotta line that we're going to leave in place and just do a cast in place pipe system where there's a couple different methods to do it, but you basically just lining the pipe in place. The pipe is in good condition, but it's all old terracotta, and it is does leak at the joints. It's very prone to that. So we're going to put a liner into it. It'll both keep the sewer from leaking, and it'll actually add some strength to that pipe. So that section is going to be from Laurel Creek Hardwoods all the way up to just before the Bridge Street Bridge. So we need to be able to get in there, access the manholes. We're going to line the manholes and do some repairs to those also, because there is some root infiltration into those. I know the new school building, civil engineering drawings from Terradon, we got those, overlaid them onto our project drawings so that the contractor's aware of everything going on there. I did speak with the superintendent from SQP last year as they were awarded the project, and discussed getting access to the manholes and everything, and it shouldn't be any issue for us to coordinate, and so we won't slow up any of their operations. And once we get the project out to bid, hopefully we'll be under construction sometime in next spring. So that's the main part there in front of the school. Again, we're just getting access, and then of course the right-of-way agreement calls for 10 foot on either side of the sewer, just for access for maintenance and getting into the sanitary system for inspection. The other area is over where the old school, this is an old aerial, still shows all the school buildings over here. We're putting in a pump station right here by Dyer Avenue, and then we're going to bore underneath the Cherry River and then distribute the sewage into the existing line It comes over right behind the old gymnasium. And then, like I said, it's part of, one of the main objectives of the project is to get the main interceptors away from the river so that they're not damaged in any future floods, or at least less chance of that happening. So we're going to eliminate both sections. There's a main interceptor here, which is part of the reason we have to put that pump station in. But then we're going to pick up right behind the gymnasium and then run the sanitary sewer up away from the river. So the board owns, just a piece of property here and then over in this area too. So there's a total of, I think, 6 parcels that are involved with the project, and 4 of them are over the Cherry River, and then there's 2 or 3 over here.
Anybody have any questions?
How long will it take you to do it once you start?
Like this, the cast in place
Yeah.
pipe, that's really relatively pretty quick, because all I gotta do is go in, clean, make sure the pipe is clean, and then they pull a slip liner through there, or like I said, there's several different methods, but they do 300-400 foot section in a day, and then move on to the next one. And then there'll be, like I said, a couple days of doing manhole repairs, swapping out the lids, and we're going to spray line the inside of those also to firm them up and to stop anything from
Where will you start?
When?
Where will you start?
We don't determine means and methods. We're starting all the way at the Green Street pump station and running a new interceptor all the way up to the Laurel Creek Hardwoods, and then there's other sections of lines that we're replacing or installing new in place of the interceptors. So the contractor will give us a schedule of where they plan on working and how that timeline goes once we award the project.
Will you be coordinating with the school construction there?
Yes, yeah, I'll be doing that myself because, like I said, I've already made contact and had discussions with ZMM, Terradon, and the contractor, so that'll all go through me.
I asked him earlier, when we were out there, I said, this is not going to slow down any progress, and he said no.
No.
But we're good.
There's some of those sections, we were asking for a 30 and a 40 foot right of way, and I guess I assume that's to work, room to work,
Yes, temporary construction, yeah,
and go back to 20 afterwards.
exactly.
It goes all the way down to the plant or processing plant down at that day.
Yes, it's Dane Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's it starts, well, on around the corner. Yeah, that pump station is right in here.
Yeah, I think one of the drawings we had that on it. That-
Yeah, we're running new interceptor all the way up through here, and then doing a new crossing because the crossing is exposed. The river's eroded it enough that it's sticking out of the, up in the air, or, well, in through the water, I should say.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's move on to action items, and action item A is the approval of the easement agreements with the city of Richwood, and of course, that's for the sewer project. You need to sign today.
No,
I was gonna say, we usually sign after the meeting, but if you need to take it with you.
no, actually, Kim asked me, and I said I'd prefer they stay here,
Okay.
so you can sign them tomorrow and get that taken care of, and I'll have the right of way stop by when she goes through.
Any discussion on improvement of the easement agreement? Okay, action item B, approval of the lease with John Kessler with the Richwood High School Band. That's the same it's been for years. Just a place for them to practice, mainly not practice, but to keep their stuff.
Can we afford the dollar?
The dollar is,
It's $2 or $3 this year.
Yeah.
With inflation.
okay, action item C, approval of the contract with Summersville Arena and Conference Center. Sarah Lee. Is that the one for 50 people? What's that for?
On August 2nd, we have Steve Bowler coming to work with the principals, and after we met with Mr. Bean, he recommended that we have each principal bring their faculty senate chair, since they also serve as a leadership role, and any of the teachers that participated in the aspiring administrator cohort. So we need more space than we would have here. So that'll be out of federal money, and it's just a rental agreement. And then the next one's also me. It's with Dr. Andrea Lemon for some training for adolescent literacy and content literacy for the back to school time. And then E is with Derek Oldfield. He is a technology and construction guru from the Eastern Panhandle. And he's put together some fantastic things with Canva and a few other tools that would be excellent for our teachers. And we're planning to do some technology training on August 8th and 9th, and we'd like his assistance. And these are all coming out of federal monies for heated.
Is it all federal funded?
Yes.
So, it's not on here, but the gentleman we scheduled a gentleman for opening day.
Yes, he is scheduled for opening day. We're good to go there.
And we've already approved that.
It didn't have to be approved. There's no fee for it.
Really, he's not charging? Well, he's working,
Marshall Autism Training Center will take care of that.
he's good. Okay. Any questions for Dr. Lee? Okay, do I have a motion to approve action items A, B, C, D, and E?
I'll make it motion.
Mr. Berry makes a motion. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Green. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Consent items. Finance.
I handed out one last check that wasn't sent in your packet to Walmart. That doesn't-
We're used to getting more than one.
Yeah. Well, this one, since we have a couple of weeks where we're not going to have a meeting, we needed to go ahead and get this one approved so that it wouldn't be late. Everything else we should have there.
Yeah.
I looked at it earlier. Crystal, we looking at the, checks bill?
Yeah.
That, and, I'm just asking this because I'm not familiar, I don't remember. U.S. Bank National Association, it was billed for $8,700.
There are, our U.S. Bank is our P card.
Uh-huh,
That was the travel to Philadelphia as well.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
remember approving that, but I was gonna ask the same question, I can't remember what that was for some type of training up in
Yeah,
Philadelphia.
that's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember who was going. Did you make the trip to
Philadelphia, it was one of our principals, one of our Title I principals, his counselor, our family engagement specialist, and our federal programs coordinator. It
Okay.
was a family engagement conference.
And that's part of the P card or the,
Yes, they put the expenses on the P card, so we get that percent.
it goes through that
reimbursement.
bank? That's how it's connected. The P card goes through
Yes.
that? Okay.
Right, yeah, you see a register for P card, and then it has a grand total there, and then that total also appears because we write an actual check to the bank to pay for the P card. So it's not like we're paying that amount twice, it's showing the vendor that we're paying and then showing that we're paying the P
Yeah,
card.
this is basically an expense here for the
Yeah, right,
travel.
right.
We've got 78,000 in iPads on here. Didn't we just approve 1,300,000 last week, the last meeting? Is that extra or what?
That was for computers.
No, you approve that, but they only invoice as they ship. So you approve the purchase of them, but that is what they bill us as they ship them. So I think you're looking at the cases, actually, and they just did ship the iPads last week. We finally have those, so you'll probably see that invoice for those next pay period. The 1.3, that was probably computers, from last time, yes. That's the surfaces for the secondary kids, and those iPads are for your primary, and we did get just the cases this month.
These are replacements?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, they're one-to-one replacements.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Going back to that Philadelphia trip, I can't remember, I remember approving it, but was that a grant or federally funded, or was that out of the boards?
It's paid through Title I.
Yeah. I did have one question on the, just trying to look at it's under AP, but it's $3,000, it's $1,000 times 3, how the Irma Schultz Scholarship?
Okay, yeah, that is a scholarship at Richwood High School, and so we just keep those funds here, and I'm not sure what the students have to do to earn the scholarship, but we distribute that directly to the college.
So is that an endowed money that the school board holds, or is it paid every year from the donor?
I think that was just a one-time payment from that, possibly the estate of the donor, and so we hold that money here instead of the school holding it, and so then the school directs us on who has received the scholarship and to what school to pay it.
I'm going to comment on that, and I don't know how that works, but I wonder if the school board has any more of those or scholarships that they process that the school board holds the money. We do, the Nicholas County Community Foundation, which I am associated with, that does do that. It holds that money and invests that money in endowed scholarships and processes, those types of scholarships that come from Palmettos. There's 50-some accounts or whatever. I just didn't know if the school board itself was really the proper entity to hold.
That
type of
probably
money.
depends on the state, would be my opinion.
Well, if the school board is capable of doing that, I have no problem with that. I'm just saying I didn't know how many of those you had, for lack of a better word, how many scholarships school boards actually.
That's the only one that I know of, that's the only one that we have
Okay.
here. I know that Nicholas County High School has a couple of scholarships that people they're accepting funds for every year, but I think that they would be
Did
small.
the high school handle
And I
that?
think that the high school's very much. But they have so far, it might get to a point where it's something bigger, but right now it's just pretty small.
Anything else on payment of current invoices? Okay, contracts.
Appalachian Office Products for various copiers. I should have had all that in here. Okay. And then there were 2 recommendations from Richwood High School, one for vending machines and one for photography.
Most of those we've worked with for several years. It's just a renewal to come to this
Right, right.
contract.
Any questions? Discussion? Okay, do we have a motion to accept consent items A, finance, payment of current invoices, and B, contracts with Appalachian Office, and then, of course, C, the bids with Richwood High School TSS Photography and Richwood High School Mountain Vending?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Green makes a motion to accept the consent items. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moose. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Kristen. That brings us to personnel. Okay, and these first 2 are with Mr. Bayless. Why don't you come up and talk about those? So the first one is permission to increase the contract days for 2023-2024 school year for Samantha Kalna from 200 days to 220.
Yeah, so when I asked the board if we could increase Samantha's contract to 220 days. She's our current ag teacher, and part of that program requirement is for her to provide a supervised ag experience for students. And that process mainly takes place during the summer months. It's individual for every student, and it has to be done during the summer. So those days would cover those duties she has to do. You can see some evidence of what she's been doing this summer, actually this Saturday, as our students will be participating in the livestock show at the Nicholas County Fair, I think for the first time in several years. And that's at 5 p.m. And at 7 p.m., we're going to actually auction our 2 cows that we raised all year. So those 20 days are just to help provide those services to those students. In the past, prior to Samantha, our old ag teacher was a 220 contract. And just for reference, most ag teachers in the state are 240, and there's a few 261, and there's a few 220. So we're just asking for her to get a 220 based upon our enrollment.
What day is that livestock Friday, did you say?
Saturday.
Saturday.
We have 5 p.m. livestock show, and 7 is the auction. And then the second one, I'm asking to use Perkins funding to hire Kim McPherson for 15 additional days to help us with the dual enrollment process. As you guys know, last year when WEVAS 2.0 happened, we had to start enrolling students at CT centers separately from the home high schools. So that's a pretty lengthy process. We have to unenroll students at the high school, enroll them in our school, and any student that doesn't come to our school this year, that was at our school last year, we have to reverse the process back. And there's no good way just to print a list. It's just one by one, looking at over 500 students to do that. And then once that enrollment process has been done, we can actually schedule every student. And she's been trained very well in WEVAS, and that's what she's doing. We greatly help us out on that.
And that's paid for with?
It's paid for through Perkins, our CT budget.
Any questions for Mr. Bayless?
Now you got the nursing program, so that's going to add on, isn't it?
Yes, yes, so the LPN's now coming as well, yes.
What time was that livestock show?
5 p.m.
5 p.m. On Saturday?
on Saturday, yes.
This coming Saturday?
Yes, it's with the fair. The
Okay.
fair starts Thursday, and it'll be in the back barn there. It's part of the fair.
Or the youth?
Brian Sparks, I think, and he's with
Down,
Yes.
WVU Extension Agent. whatever.
down below the
Yeah,
red barn?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I used to do that when I was a kid, show them cattle.
My grandson's doing
Yes.
Yeah, there too, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Bayless? Thank you, sir. Okay, under personnel, permission for the superintendent to post and hire for positions through October.
Yeah, let me explain that a little bit to you. This time of the year, we have a lot of people switching jobs or resigning their jobs or trying to fill positions. And just an example, Friday, we got an email from an employee who was resigning. It was too late to get it on the board agenda. So if we don't have this permission to post and hire during this time, then we have to wait till the August meeting to accept their resignation before we can even start the process of trying to find a custodian for that school. And that happens in a lot of positions. We have other people resigning their positions also. The reason we asked it to go through October is October 1st is the deadline for us to our certified list. Every employee that you hire, if they're not certified by October 1st, then the county is responsible. They don't get the funding for that position the following year. So this gives me a chance to, when we get an opening, to immediately, a vacancy, we immediately post that job and get that filled as quickly as we can, because this time of the year, we do have a lot of people switching positions. A job will be posted in Mount Lookout that somebody from Gauley River wants to apply for, then that starts the merry-go-round and everybody trying to land a position. So there's a lot like musical chairs, and if you wait 2 weeks between those to accept one and post one, you never get everybody filled. And we like to have everybody in place before school starts, so we don't have to move teachers around after they started teaching students. So that's the purpose of asking for permission to post and hire prior through October.
It's pretty normal for the board to do that.
Yeah, I think we've always done it that way. Toward the end. So,
Okay, then under personnel, we have D. Pamela Woods resigns her position as cafeteria manager for Birch River Elementary effective July 21, 2023. And E has been scratched out, so any,
Yeah, we did not have anybody fill that position at this point, so we just took it off the agenda.
anything else in personnel?
We have about 10 jobs posted at the moment, but that comes down tomorrow.
And
Just for education purposes for me, as I've been in the system, I like to take things for granted. I assume when somebody applies, and I know that there's a union contract or seniority, is it the principal itself that makes a recommendation to that position, or is it somebody at the central office, some personnel director?
Okay, the way it works with service, it's strictly seniority. Now, if you do, let's say you have a custodian position where you're already poached. Let's say someone applies for that job that's most senior but has received poor evaluations. You can supersede the seniority rule and hire a different person. With teaching jobs, classroom teaching jobs, each school has a hiring committee that they take a list, we send them a list of all the qualified applicants. They can, if there's three or if there's less than three, they can ask to repost the position, which just delays the process. And usually if you don't get certified people the first time, you're not going to get it the second. But that committee has to make a recommendation, and the principal makes a recommendation. If they both agree, then I usually rubber stamp that. But sometimes, and I've had this happen, where the interview committee would recommend one person, the principal would recommend another one, and then it comes to me and I make that decision, or the personnel director. I've been the personnel director my whole life, so I'm just used to saying me. But that's the way the process works.
And then at the end, that is brought to the board, and the board
It
makes
is,
its decision.
yes. Yes. The only jobs that I interview for and I don't have to have a team with me to interview, is directors, principals, or in this case, assistant superintendents. Otherwise, the schools are involved in some fashion.
Is that standard throughout the state, that hiring plan?
Yeah. That's state
I thought it
code.
was.
I think it's policy 5500 or 5000, one of the two, that if there's a hiring procedure, that everybody has to follow.
I was thinking, I thought.
Well, it sounds like the procedure, if you have a hiring committee and the principal involved, you
Yeah.
might have a recommendation, I think.
And they have,
Makes sense.
each school has their own, they have like 2 or 3 choices. They can have a single designee who does the interviews. They can have a team of no more than 7. And they have to put that in their faculty senate minutes at the beginning of the year so you know how they choose to interview their candidates. Then in May, they have to decide how they want their summer vacancies taken care of, because a lot of times people's out and about, they're not around, and sometimes they can either let us do it, they never do that, but they can let us do it, or they can have a single designee, or they can keep their team together. But they have to have the training every year for the team to do the interviews. You have to have the training to do the interviews.
Thank you. Education.
Any other discussion? All right, do we have a motion to accept the personnel agenda as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Moose makes a motion, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Berry. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Consent items. Recommendation of building principal approve voluntary transfer of Vicki Conant
Conan.
from her current position of 3rd grade teacher at Lake Creek Elementary School to the position of 2nd grade teacher at the same school, effective with the 2023-2024 school year. Any discussion?
Can you explain that?
You can if you'd like.
Okay, what happens in situations like this is if you have a vacancy at a school, you may have someone on your current staff that's interested in that position. So if there's no one else that's interested in, and one person wants to move into that position, you can do that, and then you simply post that job. And you usually post them as classroom teaching jobs rather than grade specific. You really get yourself tied in a bind if you do it grade specific. If you post for a 2nd grade teacher, then they have to stay in 2nd grade. But if you do a classroom teacher, it gives you more latitude and flexibility when you're trying to move teachers from one position to another. And you may have someone on your staff that really fits the bill for that, and the principal does not have to allow that to occur, but if the principal and the teacher allows or agree to it, and there's no one on the staff that wants that particular position, you can do that, and then you just simply post that position of the person who accepted the other job. And that's real common around the state.
Any discussion? We have a motion to approve the consent item.
So moved.
Mr. Moose makes a motion, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Green. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. So number 8, superintendent's information, construction planning and architectural update.
I'm going to let Mr. Henshaw talk about this some, but also I knew I forwarded it to you today. I got an email from our attorneys at Steptoe and Johnson, and it looks like now that FEMA, they're considering our 3 options that we presented, but it looks like it's going to be early August before they're ready to have a meeting with us and make recommendations. So we was hoping for the end of July. It looks like it's going to be early August. And then Chris, he went to, was it Glade Creek last week you went to? So you could give an update on that, and also this morning's meeting.
So Glade Creek, there's been, and I just think it's interesting to see how many RFIs. So a company, if they have a question about any of the drawings or any of the process going on that they want ZMM to clarify, that's called an RFI. They submit an RFI. We've had 48 RFIs to date. 47 of those have been answered. And the 48th one was supposed to have been answered the day of the meeting. It was just about a retention pond. And it could be a question about how deep should this soil be or anything like that. So for me, it's a check and balance. Is our architect responding back and keeping construction moving along? And so I believe they are at this point.
Chris, excuse me, out of those 48, were they all Glade Creek or?
So that is the Glade Creek project.
Okay.
There's there's different ones for each one. I mean, we keep track of them for both sides. There's no outstanding submittals, which means they're not waiting on anybody to give them answers, so they should be able to proceed. At this point in time, M&H is supposed to be completed August 31st. All pay-ups are up to date, so we've paid them everything that we should at the moment. They did have, the DEP comes around every now and again, and as they always do, they'll find something, and so, but they believe they have all those remedied, and so we're in good standing there. The removed tree work along 41 is still continuing because we're getting upgraded power along through there, so that's getting continued. And they did say at the last meeting, and it was kind of odd, that Monday on the call they said, hey, we're keeping the building pad the same, we're continuing with M&H's contract just like it is. And then I got to Tuesday's construction meeting, and ZMM said, well, we're thinking about putting together a cost proposal to get to the board about just not finishing the ball fields where they was contracted to go to, because they was contracted to be gravelled, curbed, drained. They was talking about just grassing those so if the building pad needed to be changed, and that would allow M&H to leave early, because I think maybe there's some way that they won't be done by August 31st if they have to complete that contract. So they said they was going to come up with a dollar amount, and I think of course it would behoove us to wait and see what FEMA has to say, because if we don't need to make that building pad larger, then I don't know that we would need to lessen their contract. Because when that was bid out, I think that was bid out when diesel fuel was like $2 a gallon. So it's never going to get done that cheap again. If there's any chance of us thinking about using any of those fields, which some was middle school fields. So even if there's just a middle school out there, they would still plan to be used. So, that was that. Cherry River, they're still continuing to demo part of the school, removing some soil from the cut areas. The vault, the manholes was exposed from the old paper mill. They're filling that in with gravel, making that so we can build over top of that. They're making a retaining wall number 3, installing the new sewer line, so that's going to connect into you guys. They're finally starting to bring in some drilling rigs and going to start drilling deep foundations. So see some movement. I think they're supposed to do that by the end of the week. Something to note from that site is after pay-up number 3, SQP hasn't provided their lien waivers, which is required. So they're not going to get any money from us from pay-up number 3 on until they provide those lien waivers. So if you hear grumblings about them not getting paid, it's been made very clear in many meetings that they haven't provided the proper documentation.
I heard it with my own ears.
So just want to make you guys aware of that. Other than that, I think there's about 12 RFIs there that's been, and I think all those are pretty, if not all those are pretty close to answered. So
did they fill in the cavity that they found? Did they?
Yeah, they
fill that
decided.
in?
They decided we could fill that in with gravel. There was no hazardous anything found in there.
Did they finally fill it in?
No.
They haven't filled it, but there's kind of discretion. ZMM, we have a change order from SQP of how much gravel they think it'll take, but I think they're going to come to terms on how much gravel that it's really going to take, and that change order will go in for that.
Well, don't they have a lot of that stored now down at the John Kessler's? I mean, can't they reuse? They've got a mountain of gravel down there.
It has to be classified as suitable fill. I don't know that is classified as suitable fill. We've been down a very long road between being able to take dirt off of a site and put it back. I just wanted to cover it all up to begin with. It's just going over a road. It's not even going under a building. But I don't know why they decided to do that.
But the cavity, was that where the water had washed?
No, it was
taken out some concrete or?
From talking to them, they just think it's an old drain system. That was it. So but there's no chemicals, no nothing in there. They tested all that.
They had a lot of tunnels on you.
They've pumped it out. As soon as they pump it out, the groundwater
Rick
fills
used to
back
play
in.
hide and go seek.
Yeah, and so they've pumped it out, then it fills back in with water, and it's just groundwater. Um,
There's places you could.
Hopefully we get a for sure date, because, you know, they was doing some demo on the, what would be the north side of the wing of the school. They took out some walls in there, and we've stressed at every meeting, that school has to be turned back over to us by the 16th. Because teachers have to be ready to, we have to be ready to teach school at the beginning of school. So we'll hit that hard again tomorrow, and Mr. Beam and I go over there to that meeting. Last meeting I hit it pretty hard, said, you know, we have to have a schedule. I'm trying to pin them down to a schedule and say, this has to be ours.
That's why I brought it up today.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't with SQP, but
Right, yeah. So I just like to do it because if you leave that stuff go, then it just gets felt bad. But bring it to their attention, we have to have it. We can't give them that. We already moved summer school out of there and let them have it. I'm sure you guys know summer school for them is at Panther Creek this year.
I'm not clear on, you mentioned proper documentation, I'm not clear on that. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
So whenever they submit their paperwork, they have to submit all their paperwork for their subs as well. Because their subs is what they're getting paid to do.
Subcontractor.
Their subcontractors they haven't provided us, Skanska, ZMM, the people who start our pay-ups, they haven't provided them with the lien waivers saying that they don't have liens against them to us so we can pay their bills.
Okay.
it's a process. But it's a safety net.
Yeah, are you guys familiar with what it takes for a company to get paid? I mean, I don't,
We were catching Steve up. Did you,
have,
you got it now, don't you? It goes through
it goes straight up and straight back down. Like, it's, you know, it starts out with them submitting the company submitting a pay app to Skanska and ZMM, and they approve it. It comes to us, we approve it. It goes to the SBA has to approve it, and then it goes to DSHM. And like, I think they said 7 different people approve it.
Didn't they originally allow 90 days for that?
Then, when we started these projects, they said that we needed 90 days. And
To pay a bill?
yeah, to pay a bill, because that's just getting there, and after DSHM approves it, then it goes to FEMA. And then they approve it, and then they cut a check, and then it comes down the exact same process through everybody's hands that the check does, the approval. It doesn't just come straight back to us. And we get approval, and then after we get approval, then if we have the money or we can, then we'll write a check and you guys approve it, we pay the contractor and wait for reimbursement from FEMA. If it's millions and we can't float that, then we just wait for FEMA to electronically transfer us the money, and then we cut a check and give it to the contractor. So, but we've managed most of the time to keep that under 45 days.
But all subcontractors and contractors, when they're working on an owner's property, and we're the owners of the property, you have to get a release of liens as part of that documentation, because if not, when you release that payment, somebody's into the general, and he didn't pay the sub, and the sub comes back, they'll file a lien against you all, against the Nicholas County Board of Education. So that has to be done. All people that's in the contract and construction business knows that. And it's just gonna hold their payment until they get it done. It's just the way it works.
The only thing else I can think of for the Cherry River site is the camera system. They haven't provided us with the ability to even show time lapse. I can get in there and I can watch it, but they're supposed to provide us something we can post to a website of at least time lapse video. So that'll be brought up again tomorrow as well. And we have those time lapses from probably a month ago, because they didn't have the camera up forever. And so we'll be able to start from that beginning, but we've missed a lot of it. We've missed a lot of the removal and stuff.
I drive by there every day, I get to see it, time lapse.
Yeah, yeah.
Drive by slowly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Henshaw.
I had a question while we're talk about construction. I don't know if it's a misprint in the paper. This was the quote that they put from you, the 169 million for,
It would be,
that was the bid on all three schools there, the vocational and,
Yes,
okay, but come over here.
that's where we're 72 million short.
Okay, but come over here, and the bid on just the high school and middle school was 160, for the quote there. But I don't think that number was right.
it's not.
It was 115 or 20 or something like that.
If you just
This
cut
is-
the VOTEC out,
Yes.
This is a new figures based on inflation rate a year from now. That's what that is.
I don't know, did they talk about that?
That they did.
Volume?
They did.
I
They
didn't
said,
hear that.
we're
Yeah.
about $30 million short, we have 97, so the middle school, if you would have just left the middle school in with the high school and cut the VOTEC out,
Right.
you've been 30 million short, so that quote would be 127 million.
but what they're saying here
They're
is
saying
next year.
I think it's, I personally read that too, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's correct.
Yeah. Well, that's what the whole building was going to cost under the last bid. I mean, you know, I don't know how much inflation could be that, I mean, it could be.
Now, the last bid was 51 million. You not got 97.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's 148. And then there were several things that wasn't bid. And that's how it got us up to the 72
Yeah.
million
Yeah,
short. If you took the 72 million, the 97 we have, that's 169 million.
yeah, I understand
That's how you
that
get to
part.
that.
Yeah, I understood all that, but the quote on that.
I don't think the 160 would bear out personally.
What they may have done is just subtracted 45.
Well, even if it subtracted 45 from 69, it would have been a lot less than 160.
But they told us that those new figures, if they had to, see, we can't go by the old figures, we'd have to put that back out for bid, okay? And what they said was that a year from now, they were basing it on another 40%
Another 40%.
inflation. That's where that number
But also, they also said they were figuring in extra per square foot, so that would cover, you know. So I'm not sure how all that figures out. If they, you know, I don't know how much more they would, per square foot they added, I don't
But
know.
even if you were planning a year ahead, you're not comparing apples to apples. I think Mr. Berry's correct. If you were at 169 million, is that now or is that a year ahead? Because it does not match up with
The
160.
169 was 2 months ago.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if the 160 is a projection for a year ahead, you can't match those up apples with apples.
Well, it seems like there's, yeah, the bid was high on just the two buildings, or the two schools, you know, there. That's what I'm saying.
Just trying to focus so we don't go down the same road we've been going down, you know, we can't afford it.
Well, just,
Yeah, you'd hope that these quotes that they come in, better than, I think, as everybody's trying to be optimistic.
Yeah.
The architects are putting enough.
and the bid that we did get, I'm sure they were looking into the future a little bit and add to what they thought they'd need, you know, a year from now, even under that bid. They would almost have to.
And another thing is, if we do get to put it back out for bid, if they agree, we need to emphasize with ZMM or whoever our architect would be, we don't want a bunch of fluff. We want some buildings. Our kids need in buildings.
Yeah.
Well, I think the key's going to be, whether we can do it or not, the key's going to be to get multiple bidders. You can't have one bidder. And I was involved in that, and I know the theory behind trying to put it out in sections so that you save the markup between the subcontractor and the general. But if you can't get and generals, because their bonding capacity is not going to have control of the subs because you put them out for separate bids. I don't know that you save that much money, but if you can get multiple bidders to do it that way, that I understand the theory behind it, but you've got to find a way to get multiple bidders on that job. One bidder is going to take advantage of the system.
Subcontractors was a problem. We had several primes that was interested in it, that they was all using the same subs. So they knew that. And so they just, all of a sudden, could say whatever they wanted, and that's what it was, because they didn't have anybody else.
Well, the bonding company will have a hard time underwriting the general contractor if he doesn't have control of his subs. I'm just telling you, it's not to say they can't do it, but it'll be more difficult. So, but that'll be something, discussion with the architects, like you said, whoever that may be. And
If we get to that bridge again.
yeah, well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. I just don't know what the business stuff's going to be, but we're going to get to that bridge where, well, I guess you're correct, Chip. I guess a lot depends on what FEMA says.
Okay, well, let's move on to number 9, reports. Mr. Ferguson, SESC.
I talked to Jason Butcher today. The meeting will be, my first meeting will be Wednesday. They did not have a meeting in June because a lot of the superintendents, I think, were in training or other things. So their last meeting was May, and I came on in June. The next meeting will be this Wednesday, and I will participate.
Okay. Bright Horizons, Mr. Green.
Thursday.
We have a meeting Thursday. Well, moving along to delegations. Ms. Kim, do we have any delegations?
No, sir.
Items for future agendas. So one, well, does anybody have anything?
I got one question, and I'm sure you may have been getting email too, but I'm getting email from the, and again, I'm just not used to this stuff, from the, is it Mr. Brown, Jim Brown, the former, talking about county board self-appraisals are due by August 15th.
That's one of the things we're going to,
Oh, okay.
yep. So
I just didn't know how that works. Is that something we have to do individually?
it's
as a board
new for
member?
us.
We kind of evaluate ourselves is what it is.
What I suggested to Mr. Prine is, I contacted my office, my former office in Pocahontas County. They did this self-appraisal last year, and for them to send us how they did it, went through the process, so you have kind of a model to go with. Not that theirs is perfect, I'm sure it's not, but at least gives you a starting point to work with.
I didn't know if the board as a group actually evaluated, but anyway, you're going, you're
Yeah,
on
we're
that.
working on it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Last year we did that, and you guys, everybody logged in because it was online, and they could do it. I would have the questions up here, and you guys would put your answers as we walk through it together. And you would be logged on with your own device and do, because it's an individual thing. Everybody has their own answers. So that's how we did it last year. I had to talk to Mr. Beam about that. I don't know if he wants to do it.
Did you do that before the board, the new elect?
That was the first time we'd done that.
Yeah, that was the first time, yes.
Yeah,
So
that was
it's-
something, something new.
Rick and I were not board
He
members.
was not part of that.
Okay.
It was right before that, yeah, it was right
But they're
before.
due, I think, August 15th.
Yes.
Yeah.
So did they do that at a board meeting, or did
Yes.
they do have a work session?
I think it was a board meeting, but I don't remember.
I believe we did it during the board meeting, but we just did it on these pads, I think.
You're probably happier to do it during the work session, during the day, because it's not real fast. I think there wasn't that many questions, there, less than 10 questions that you had to answer.
Wasn't it? I think we discussed it because it was all new.
Yeah. And it's individual responses, it's not a collective answer as a whole. You guys have individual responses.
Well, we may call a work session to take care of it, but as soon as we'll be talking to Chris some more. All right, so items for future agendas. We kind of talked about this, and Mr. Hess I know he was busy and with other things but Kristen, any idea on surplus property? And I'm talking about parcels of land.
Not really. Kevin had started looking into that, but I don't think that he really got very far with that. You guys wanted to know what was out there, what was owned, and
Well, at one time, at one time I was told that we had 40, 50 pieces of property around, and then the next time I heard we only had a few, so, what I'd like, if we have surplus property that we don't need, we need to be selling it. Number one, we get the tax base off of it if we sell it. We're not, and it's a liability right now, somebody, and a lot of it's in the middle of somebody's land.
I know we have several pieces, and 10 or probably 10, because I've had people that call here and say, hey, I know this is board-owned property and I want to buy it. And they wouldn't tell me who it was or where the property was, and my answer was, well, tell us where that's at and we'll put it up for public auction, because that's the way we have to get rid of it.
That's the way, that's what we'll have to do.
All of those landowners, we have to check and see if there's a reverter clause.
Right.
That takes some time and energy. But they all said, no, we're going to take our chances. And they wouldn't tell me who he was or where he was, because they wasn't sure if they would. One was in the middle of the fellow's field where his son was going to build a house. And so I think there's some out there, several pieces out there, and we just have to look at them at the courthouse.
Chris?
It's not, they have a list of it. I don't think it would be that hard to find out. The real
You should be able to go to the
question,
courthouse and ask them, right?
I think so. The real problem is going to be, do they have a reverter clause? And just paying an attorney to go back and see about the reverter clauses and see if we can sell them. Because just, for instance,
But even if we don't, even if they have a reverter clause, we need to get them back.
yes,
to
I
them.
totally agree, but I'm just trying to make the point that it might not be a real fast process after we figure that out. And then it takes a while to locate the family. Even I know the Fenwick Best Garage had to go back to the National Forest.
Right.
And then Dixie was 4 lots. 2 of those lots had reverter clauses and 2 didn't. So lucky enough, the same fellow that had the reverter clause bought the other 2 lots. Fenwick, the Ellsworth Lumber Company. But we'll get you what we can get from the courthouse.
Okay, so we have that on the agenda. And then, I hate to bring this back up, but the old paying with a credit card. So we never really did decide,
oh, for the schools.
yeah.
Whatever you guys recommend.
I don't want to make it tough on bookkeeping, I don't, but I just don't think it's fair that if Mr. Berry chooses to pay cash and I use a card, that it's, since it's a credit card, we're paying that company a certain percentage, right? Why should somebody paying cash have to pay the same amount?
Right. Actually, Chris and I were just talking about that a little while ago. I personally don't see an issue with charging more for someone paying online than somebody coming into the school and doing that. I think that Kevin wanted that to be uniform, and he wanted, he just wanted people, he wanted to make sure that people utilize the online program, and he was afraid that that would be a penalty, and so people wouldn't want to use that because they were paying more. Although, that happens everywhere. We say, go to Little Caesars and you're going to pay extra for using your credit card there. So I think that's just kind of the way that.
Well, I went up to today in Ridgewood, and they said cash or card, and I said cash, and it was a certain price, and if I'd used my card, it'd have been more. And some of these people, a few dollars. A lot of these kids are living with grandparents, aunts, uncles. They're not with, so sometimes a few dollars means a lot.
Right.
And I would hate to knock some kid out of buying a yearbook or something because it was a little bit out of their range.
Right.
But that's, so,
So our school system right now charges different for a cash payment and credit card payment, is that what you're saying?
no.
It's a state.
What are
the
you
state
trying,
set that up.
what are you trying to accomplish? I'm all confused.
No, it does cost more if you use a card, and less if you use pay cash.
Because it costs more when you use a card, when we set up this online payment for the schools, we made it so that people would go ahead and pay online. It wasn't going to cost them less to go and pay at the school. It was going to be the same price regardless of what you did, so that people would utilize the system. It was in legislative code that we had to start allowing people to pay online for things at schools. So that's why, I mean, it's not
But it's the
necessarily.
same pricing if I went to the school and paid cash?
Correct. Right. That's the way we have it set up right now, is it would have been, we're charging the extra fee, or they're charging the extra fee because of the credit card usage. So they're going ahead and charging that same amount if you pay for it at the school, so that you'll still pay online. But now what the board is saying, I think, is that they would rather you pay, if the yearbook is $30, they'd rather you be able to go to school and pay $30 for the annual yearbook. And then if you want to pay for it online, you're going to pay, $35 or whatever.
But the way it is now, whether you went to the school or online, you're paying the $35.
Correct.
One price.
Right. And so actually, Kevin talked to some other counties to see how they are doing it, and it's really very mixed. Some are keeping the price consistent, and some are going ahead and charging the extra for paying online and charging a cheaper price if the people come into the school and pay.
Well, really what you're doing now, I'm going to word it a little bit differently, you're giving a discount for a cash payment.
Yeah.
So the pricing's the same. You can decide whether you want to pay cash or pay online, that's the price.
Now, here's the deal. So the yearbook, let's say the yearbook was $60. All right. When they started doing the credit card, they had to cover that cost on using the credit card.
It sounded like it was going to cost you $60 regardless.
No, they raised the prices on everything
It would go at 3%.
to cover that.
Okay, that's a little bit different what you're saying, and then you don't have the same price. If it's 3% on 60 is $1.80, so it's $61.80. So it should be $61.80 whether I pay cash or $61.80 whether I put it on my credit card. If that's, you're saying the pricing is the same, right?
Right now, yeah.
I'm saying that's how the schools have set that up. That's how we said that we wanted to do it, because Kevin wanted he wanted people to use the online
Yes,
system and
no,
not
I-
penalize.
yeah. But again, if I pay cash, I'm still going to pay that $61.80. If I pay credit card, I'm going to pay $61.
Right, well, yeah, but really the school is just upping the amount so that it's the same price as the credit card with the fee.
You're setting your prices to cover credit card
Right.
expense.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I understand what you're doing, but I don't understand so what you're wanting to do is have a discount if you pay cash.
It's not a discount. Before,
Don't add on the 3%.
before they were charging a certain amount for an item. Then when they went to use a credit card, the price went up on that item. Well, why should it cost people that pay cash or check? Why should it cost them
No, I hear
the
you.
credit card?
But that's not what she's saying. She's saying there's one price.
I thought we discussed it.
But you're saying there's two prices. You're saying it's more if I pay for a credit card. But if I go to that school or pay online, it's the same price, right?
Because they made it that way.
Because they made it that way, but they raised prices.
Yeah, currently it's one
To
price,
cover
and you would
that.
like to see two prices.
Yeah, we would like for them to save
You'd
money
like to
if
have
they can
cash
with
discount.
cash, right?
Yes, yes.
But then also get rid of cash flow through the school also.
Well, and I do understand some of that.
Well, if you don't cover the cost, you're either cutting into your profit or the Nicholas County Board of Education is going to pick up that cost, or cut the cost. I mean, they're trying to recoup the cost or have them do it online or pay with a credit card, and they're trying to recoup that cost because it's a cost of their sale.
Right, I understand that part, but why should I have to pay that cost if I'm paying cash?
You should get a cash discount. We're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing, Chip. It's how you want to administer it. If you're wanting a different price for paying cash, or you have to bring everything down to that cash price you're talking about and not charge the credit card fee.
I know.
And that comes out of somebody's dollars.
I know some car dealers, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
And so, you know, you go in there to pay for your vehicle.
yeah.
And you say, I'm gonna put that on my card,
Mhm.
then the price goes up because of the charges.
Kind of what the school system just did too.
Right.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, if people wanna pay cash, it should be the base price, what it used to be.
They should get a cash discount. We're saying the same thing. It's a question of whether the board wants to put a policy in to give a discount for cash.
Yeah.
Well, not, I guess, the way I look at it is, this is price, let's say the price of your book
Okay.
is, I'm
Okay.
using your book.
All right.
Price of your book, $60.
All right.
And, you know, somebody pays cash or check is $60.
Okay.
If they choose to use the online system, this is gonna cost them more. It's gonna cost them more. It's
6180.
gonna cost them to cover that credit card.
Okay.
We're saying the same thing. but
No,
this-
I understand what you're doing. It's just, I understand it's whether you want to pass the credit card fee on to the consumer.
The new tax that Somersville put on sale,
Yes, 1%.
1%.
the 1%, that should not affect the schools, right?
Now, you all don't charge the sales tax anyway.
Yeah.
Do you?
Not.
So you're exempt anyway as a nonprofit, so it
Well-
won't affect you. But if you sold them inside the city limits of
Well, it
Somerville.
depends on who's selling it, yes. If it was somebody selling to raise money for the school, they'd probably pay it.
If somebody was selling like those pictures at TSS, they probably have to charge the sales tax.
Yeah.
And they're doing it to Nicholas County High School at
It's only in the
7%.
county.
When they do it to Richwood, it's 6% right now, but I know Richwood wants to go to home rule, change theirs to 7. If they're charging it to Craigsville School, they charge 6%. If they charge it here in Somersville, it'd be 7%.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct.
So it could affect.
You'll have a different pricing, yes, for the same product.
Well, Kristen, look into that and see how much, I don't want to cause you a bunch of issues,
Oh,
but
no, I mean, that was something that we needed to address anyway, because, I mean, that's how we were doing it, was a standard price, and
it was
I
actually,
felt like you guys were not really into that, and you wanted to see.
well, it was actually brought to me by a couple secretaries.
Well, and the whole system is new. I mean, you know, we just started doing this, and like I said, it was because we had to do it because of legislature. So, I mean, it's a new concept anyway for them to follow. So, you know, once they're a little bit more familiar with it, it's going to be easier for them anyway. But I don't know. Either way, it's going to be, you know, like a learning process for them. But I don't really feel like, I don't know that it's a discount, a cash discount, as much as I think that they had their cash price and they're just upping it to match what the cost is for people who pay for it with a credit
My
card.
point
So
exactly.
Chip is saying he doesn't want to have them have the burden of that increased price to match the higher price for credit cards. So-
But then who assumed that? The Nicholas County Board of Education?
No,
Yeah, there is
people
no
use a
cost.
credit
There isn't
card.
a cost then, in that case.
Yeah.
It's per transaction. We get charged per transaction. So if it doesn't run through the online system, then nobody incurs a cost if it's paid for by cash.
You ever been traveling and you see the gas price and it'll say cash price? You use your credit card, it's not that price.
But again, Chip, I just want to make sure, you want two prices. You want two prices. I
I
thought you
think-
said you wanted one price on the
No. I want,
You want two prices.
yeah,
I think that's what you got now.
The schools are artificially charging more if somebody comes
Even
in.
if it's cash. I get
Right,
it. I get it.
because that's what That's what we said, that's
I
what
got
Kevin
you.
said he wanted them to do, but now I think we're revisiting that.
Yes, let's revisit that.
Okay.
So, the next thing, Dr. Lee, teacher summer pay. A few meetings ago, we had a presentation on that. And you were not here, I don't think.
No, I was probably on vacation.
So, we need to discuss that. So,
The extra duty rate?
yes. Yeah, specifically for teachers. But anyway, you can.
Next year.
Next.
Next
It'll be a
time.
Christmas thing.
You want that as an action item or just discussion?
Yeah, a discussion with possible action on the summer pay,
Summer pay for teachers, I think.
yes.
Well, it would be more than just summer pay, it would be all their extra duty pay, correct? Because that's where that rate comes from. That's the standard extra duty rate.
Yeah, but the service personnel, are they getting that same pay rate, that extra duty pay rate all the time, or just in the summer?
For the summer programming,
Yes.
they are.
That's what I'm saying. It's not, the service personnel, it's bumped up quite a bit. And the other is kind of level, correct?
Correct. Everybody within that program gets the same, well, not everybody, but the tutors and the service personnel have one rate, and then the site coordinator gets $2 extra.
Okay, well, I think we need to discuss that and take possible action on it. And I know you probably already have your budget for next year, correct?
With summer programming grants, yes. Now, some of that summer money goes away after this year, like everything through ESSER 2 will be done. Like Summer Soul will be
So
gone.
I'm not trying to cause you any, but I think the teachers are kind of getting shorted because, service personnel, they're getting a bump up in the summer, and the teachers are same pay, and I don't think that should be. But that's my opinion. So anyway, yeah, let's put that on. And that's all I have, I promise. Anything else? Future meeting dates, regular meeting Monday, August 7th, 2023 at the Nicholas County Board of Education office right here. And anything else?
Have we decided on whether we're going to have a special meeting for evaluation or just hold it during a regular session? Do we need to set a date if we're going to have?
Probably, I think we did a special meeting last year, didn't we? You filled that out before.
I think we probably need to have a special meeting because our meetings sometimes go.
Yeah. Takes too
And
long.
we don't want to rush through it, right?
Right.
So, you want to pick us?
Of course, if FEMA comes through and we have that meeting, we might be able to combine the two.
Well,
Better pick a date, haven't we?
that will be a board meeting.
Right.
That FEMA meeting, the first one will be a board meeting.
Okay.
It'll be myself and Mr. Beam and down at Charleston. We'll have to go down there. So you all want to pick, we have 2 weeks. You want to do it next week or the week after?
I'll be gone next week.
Okay, that rules next week out. How about we could have it July 31st, if you want to stick with Monday. And it doesn't have to be in the evening, because I don't think the general public are going to be.
This is the work session.
Yeah.
I'm good on 31st.
What time? You already planned.
7 o'clock in the morning.
Got a doctor's appointment at 7 o'clock.
Save us from that, then.
I don't care, we can
It
have
could
it
be later.
We can have it in the evening.
The afternoon or whatever. It's going, oh, mess your day up either.
If you're gonna work, or be,
Take about an hour, hour and a half.
I think an hour's worth, more than enough.
How about time?
9 or 10 maybe. I think.
Too long. You do it local. You want to go for 9? Or do you want to go August 1st at
Let's shoot for 9.
9 o'clock? July 31st, 9 o'clock, work session. Okay. Anything else? We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Berry makes a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Green, seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carried at 7:18.